Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time this morning to join me for today's webinar presentation covering how to simplify your 2025 construction payroll with Payroll for Construction. My name is Alex Gray, one of the regional sales managers here at Payroll for Construction. Looking at the attendees today, we're just before the top of the hour. We're at the top of the hour now. Still have some people that are getting logged in here. So we'll give everyone a couple of minutes to get logged into the presentation. So again, thank you for taking the time this morning to join today's webinar presentation. We'll let everyone else get logged in, and I'll be back with you to kick things off here shortly. All right, wonderful. Looks like we had a few others just get logged in, so we'll go ahead and get things started this morning. For those, again, who had just joined us, thank you for taking the time this morning to join me for today's sales webinar presentation, simplifying your 2025 construction payroll with Payroll for Construction. Again, my name is Alex Gray, one of the regional sales managers here at Payroll for Construction. I'll pull up my contact information here in a moment. If anyone has any questions, interested in discussing further, please don't hesitate to reach out. But one kind of household item for today's presentation, as you will notice for today's session, this is a listen-only webinar presentation. As I go along here today, you'll not be able to verbally put any input into the presentation, but you will notice on the sidebar there is a questions box. As I go along, any questions, feel free to throw those in the chat. Then we'll have a questions portion at the end of today's presentation where I'll go ahead and get those answered. And those also that I may not get to, if we have a large number of questions at the end, we will reach out to you individually. But with that, we'll go ahead and kick things off here. So again, my name is Alex Gray, one of the regional sales managers here at the Payroll for Construction team. All my contact information is on the screen for you. Any questions on your payroll process or interest in setting up time to discuss Payroll for Construction in more detail after the presentation, please don't hesitate to reach out. Shoot me a call, give me an email here. Myself or my partner, Jim Welsh, other members of the team, happy to discuss how our payroll services can help streamline and simplify your construction payroll process. We'll go ahead and jump right into things here this morning. So meet Payroll for Construction. Who are we, what we do? We're going to be an online payroll service provider only specializing in the construction industry. Construction payroll can be a messy, daunting task in itself. With that payroll, we may have multiple states, or if we're located in states like Ohio, Kentucky, multiple localities that we need to track for the payroll reporting, state tax deposits, where these jobs are taking place, as well as to anyone on the call today, union, prevailing wage, government contractor. We're going to have a list of rates, benefits we're going to track for these team members, as well as the daunting task of that construction-specific reporting. With Payroll for Construction, we're only working in the construction industry with our payroll clients, specializing mainly in union prevailing wage contractors. As I go through today, we'll show you how inside the system have separate tables that we can manage to help streamline the overall payroll process. And all those construction specific reports are available to you free of charge, included as a Payroll for Construction client directly inside your payroll system. With Payroll for Construction, we're currently processing payroll in all 50 states, have clients located in all 50 states. These clients, some of them work and report into one state, others work and report into multiple states. Doesn't matter how many states we're working and reporting to. Payroll for Construction will be able to handle the full tax filings, payments, reporting for that payroll breakout for the team. Something else that also makes us different. We are powered behind the scenes by Foundation Software. Foundation themselves have over 35 years of experience in the construction industry. Foundation is a full job cost ERP accounting software, where with Payroll for Construction, we as a team realized in 2006 that, hey, not everyone needs the full power of the accounting system with Foundation. One of the great things about it's going to be the powerful payroll module, as well as the job costing module. We pulled those two portions out of the accounting system and created today what is known as Payroll for Construction. So we'll be a full third-party payroll processor, where we'll handle the paying of your employees via check or direct deposit, and handle all tax filings and payments when it comes to payroll. As well as with our service, we'll then automate the reports with that construction payroll, the daunting, most time-consuming task with those payroll runs. So union reports, certified payroll, going to have print and electronic options directly inside the system. Job costing, labor burden reports, EEO, minority compliance, and more, all available to you, included as a Payroll for Construction client. 24/7 access to these reports in your payroll system at any point in time for any custom date range that your team may need. And we'll go ahead and jump into number 2. So that those construction specific payroll items, I'll hit on these a lot during the presentation today, as this is one of the most daunting tasks when it comes to construction payroll. Makes it the most difficult, more complex than, hey, if we're just running payroll for a flower shop on the corner, have one rate, one taxing jurisdiction we need to track. Not with construction specific payrolls. We're going to have multi-state, or we're also going to have multi-locality. Again, those contractors that are working like in states like Ohio, Kentucky, have multiple local taxes that we need to track in a week or maybe in the same day for that employee. Same thing for the multi-state reporting, not a problem with Payroll for Construction. Have ways that we can automate, track the information so that we're reporting the taxing information over to the corresponding state, over to the corresponding locality. Will not be an issue with the payroll services. Then our third bullet point here, we'll be able to automate pay rates for those prevailing wage union contracts. So, hey, with our employees, when we have commercial employees, whether an hourly, salary, not a problem. We'll set up that private commercial rate of pay on the employee's record. But then when I have prevailing wage or these union employees, I'm going to have a specific schedule of rates, as well as union benefits or that prevailing wage fringe we'll need to track for the team. So we'll have separate tables that'll be available to your team to set up and manage inside that payroll database, or Payroll for Construction can manage these tables for you, where we'll take that union contract, take that prevailing wage contract, set that up inside the system so that as hours are being coded against that project for that employee, this system will be able to look at that employee, look at that job setup, pull in the corresponding rate of pay, as well as then track all the corresponding benefits behind the scenes. Have ways that we can automate and streamline this process. It does not matter if we have any trade classification changes in that day or a week for the prevailing wage employees. All this information, all these pay rates for those payroll runs will be automated by the Payroll for Construction system. Leading into the fourth bullet point, along with those fringe and benefit calculations, have these tables that I'll jump into when we get into the system today, so you can take a look at what those are. We'll take those, tie them to a job record, tie them to that employee, automatically track all of our prevailing wage union pay rates, as well as the benefit information. Then also too, for any of the prevailing wage contractors on the call today, with those employees working on prevailing wage projects, if we are already offering them any sort of benefits through the company, and we have that prevailing wage fringe that we're also paying to the employee, that have to pay to the employees per that job, with us, we can also set up and automate a prevailing wage fringe reduction factor, or what we also call a fringe credit, where instead of, hey, I'm required to pay this employee $12 an hour in fringe benefits, but we're already offering $7 in-house for a company. Instead of taking the 12 and the 7 and paying them on top of each other, we can also then automate and reduce down that fringe by the 5, so we're not overpaying when it comes to those benefits. Have ways that we can automate this, no longer need to track this on some sort of Excel sheet. outside of our QuickBooks, current payroll provider, whatever we're currently doing there for payroll. And the last point here, workers' compensation. With that workers' compensation policy, one thing to keep in mind with Payroll for Construction, we do not handle any workers' compensation payments, but we do know how big of a part of the payroll process, job costing information, having this policy track is. So we'll still get that set up inside your payroll system, have that automatically tracked, can be broken out by the type of work that's being performed, the classes for the team members, and can even set up caps to what's ultimately being exposed to workers' compensation. As hours are being coded in, going to automatically track where we stand. And then with those report section, have a nice workers' compensation report. I could run from a high level class breakdown or get down into an employee by employee, earn code by earn code basis under the corresponding class breakout. All right, I'm moving on to slide 3 here. Going hand in hand with the construction specific payroll comes that construction specific reporting, one of the most time consuming and daunting tasks, especially when it comes to those certified payroll reports. We're filling those all out by hand here. With us, that's no longer the case. All these reports are going to be automatically generated for you and tracked inside your Payroll for Construction system. Starting from the top, certified payroll. Doesn't matter if we need print, doesn't matter if we need electronic, combination of both. Print and electronic formats available inside of your payroll system. We'll have over 40 different state, city specific forms, as along with that WH-347, U.S. Department of Labor report for those certified payroll prints. But also, if anyone is using LCP Tracker, California DIR, eMarks, just a couple examples of those online certified payroll reports, we can also have the system generate those electronic links for you to then upload into the online electronic portal. No more going in online and keying in this information by hand. This is also going to be the same with minority compliance, EEO reporting, print and electronic formats available there. Also then have job labor, burden cost reports, that workers' compensation report that I could run from a number of different formats, breakouts for where we stand with workers' comp. 401k information, then also to those union reports. So with those union employees, we'll be able to have the tables automatically track all of our union employee information. Then when it comes time to cut the check, make the payment to the union, we can go in, run our union report for that month's date range. We'll then break out all of our union employees under the trade by trade basis to then give us our overall bottom line of where we stand with that union. Then the last point here, child support and other garnishments. So with Payroll for Construction, we do have an optional garnishment handling service where any court order garnishments will at the very least set up those garnishments to be automatically withheld from the employee's pay. Then with any court order garnishments, if your team's currently handling those in-house, you could do so, absolutely keep handling those garnishments in-house. We'll have that information automatically withheld. Then a report available for you to run to send out the garnishment information where it needs to go. Or if you wanted to outsource the garnishment handling along with the standard payroll processing services, we could also handle the sending of any garnishment information after it's been withheld. Then at our core, we're still going to be then that traditional payroll service provider where we'll pay the employees via check or direct deposit. With any of those live checks, we can mail them from our office to your office to distribute to the employees, or mail any live checks to the individual employee addresses. Then the third option with those live checks, hey, 99% of the team is direct deposit. We only have one employee that likes to receive that live paper check still. You didn't want one check getting sent to the mail. You could opt to print any checks in-house outside of your payroll system after that payroll's been processed if you wanted to go that route. Then also, again, we'll pay those taxes. So with Payroll for Construction, we'll handle all the tax filings and payments. When it comes to the weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual tax filings and payments, we can handle any federal, state, local authorities, FUTA and SUTA, as well as then to the filing and distribution of employee W-2s come year end. With Payroll for Construction, take clients live in the first of the year, or also to take clients live the first of any month moving forward, where with those W-2s, if you didn't go live on January 1st, you were looking at going live February 1st. We'll take all payroll history, what's been done so far that year, get it up to date inside of your payroll system. So employees then would also receive one W-2 from Payroll for Construction come year end. Then we also have some other year-end services that we do offer as well. That what else makes us different? So with Payroll for Construction, again, behind the scenes we're powered by Foundation, but we know not everyone is using Foundation for their accounting system. So we'll have a direct integration with QuickBooks and other accounting programs out there where Payroll for Construction becomes the system of record for that payroll information. Hours are entered into the system, we process the payroll, all your data is available to you with your reports inside the payroll database. Then we'll have integration tools where we'll take that information, what was handled inside Payroll for Construction, it's then passed into our accounting system to keep our overall bottom line and our job costing intact with the main accounting product, as you don't need to have Foundation to use Payroll for Construction alongside your accounting system. Again, at our core here, the only focus is construction. With Payroll for Construction, you'll be opened up to a staff of professionals experienced with construction payroll, especially to mainly working with union prevailing wage contractors. You can call in, log a ticket. You'll have a live support representative that will be able to assist with any items that are going on in your payroll system. All of our payroll support as team is trained in-house. We do not outsource any of our payroll support team. You could walk down the hall at our office, go meet with our staff, team of over 40 individuals, all trained, prepared to handle whatever items are going on with your construction payroll. Then Payroll for Construction, web-based access anytime from anywhere with an internet connection, some sort of PC, computer, laptop device would be needed to access your payroll database. Then also with the Payroll for Construction system, we do have some additional add-ons where we offer two options for mobile applications for time card entries for the field, or also two, if your team was already utilizing a mobile time card system. We didn't want to change anything in the field, we just wanted to change the payroll process to streamline. We do have a time card import feature where we can pull in an Excel CSV file from any other mobile time card applications out there to again keep the streamlining of the hours collection and that entry back into your payroll system. Then with the last one here, we do then also offer an online pay stub portal for employees to log in and retrieve their pay stubs electronically if we wanted to give them online access. Then how a payroll is processed. Simply log in online, access your payroll system. You could have one user, multiple users set up inside that database. We'll go ahead and enter or import those time cards. Then within the system, we'll have a number of proofing reports, pre-check registers for you to then review your time card entries and payroll calculations. Then once all the information looks good to go by the team, you go ahead and submit to us directly inside that Payroll for Construction database, send a copy to that database to our team for processing. Within the hour, we'll have that payroll processed, give you a full report breakdown of what was handled, total amount of checks, direct deposits, total tax liability that was handled in that week. Then all the information seamlessly flows into your payroll report section. You have full 24/7 access to any of those payroll reports that you want to utilize inside your payroll system. What I'll do here now is we'll go ahead and jump into the actual Payroll for Construction database. So with that actual payroll system, the first thing you'll see when you log in is that Foundation software in the top right corner. It's those clients of ours that are only using us for payroll processing. You're still accessing Foundation, just a watered down version where payroll, job costing module, general ledger are open to you. Then with the actual Payroll for Construction database, during implementation, we get you connected with a trainer where we'll get that database loaded with only the information your team needs for your payroll runs. One of the first places that we'll start here is inside payroll maintenance, where in payroll maintenance, we'll take that list of employees, active employees. We have a team of data extraction specialists that we can pull out that current list of employees, job information, get it preloaded into your payroll system. We'll get those employees loaded. Also set up that workers' compensation policy to be tracked inside of that database. But then this portion at the bottom, the union prevailing wage section, is what's going to separate us from other providers out there in the industry. Where again, on my employee record, I can go in and set up Rick to say, hey, you're an hourly employee making $24 an hour, or a salaried employee. But with then those union employees, those prevailing wage projects will have a separate schedule of rates as well as benefits we need to track. So these tables then behind the scenes can control union information as well as prevailing wage information, where what our team will do, they'll take that union contract, what we're currently working with. Doesn't matter if it's one union or if we're working with multiple unions, there's no limit to how many unions we can track inside of that payroll system. We'll work with your team on how you want the naming convention to be laid out for that specific table. We'll then take all the trade classifications along with the corresponding rates of pay per that union's contract, get it listed out inside of the system, where then I can then take these union tables, tie them to my employees, tie them to a job record. As hours are being coded against the individual projects, we'll automatically look at that employee, look at that job, and pull in the corresponding pay rate and track all the corresponding benefit information that is located on a separate table that I'll jump into here in a moment. You'll also notice on this union table here also, there is an effective date where with these unions, sometimes it's once a year, multiple times a year, we can have updates to those union contracts. With Payroll for Construction, you get an updated union contract, send that information over to our team. We'll then take that and get that loaded into your system for you, where we'll then take that table, update all the information, timestamp it with the upcoming effective date. So if then that update happens at the beginning of a payroll run, in the middle of a payroll run, it does not matter. The system will look at the effective date and have the employees, hey, for the first 2 days of the week, we were under the previous rates. The remainder of the week, we need to switch over to that updated contract. The system will have that effective date in use and switch over all of our employees the updated information under that union once that effective date hits inside the system. No need to go in and update 30, 40, 50 employee records when those union updates occur, as they will all be caught under the corresponding union table here. I'll also show you again, same thing here for any prevailing wage information per that job's contract, corresponding trade classifications, corresponding pay rates. And we can take this prevailing wage table, tie it to the corresponding job record. So inside Payroll for Construction, a job is a job. And as those hours are coded against the project, the system will look at how that project is set up and pull in the corresponding pay rates and track all the corresponding benefit information for us behind the scenes. Go ahead and jump out of the pay rates table and jump in next real quick to the deduction fringe, those benefit tables. So again, with those unions, maybe it's all trades are being calculated the same, or I need to get down into a trade by trade, employee by employee basis. I can do so with the setup and tracking of the benefit information. With this then, with these tables, not saying that, hey, your team needs to know how this is set up, is again, we can manage these tables for you as a Payroll for Construction client. We'll then take that union contract, we'll set up the codes for how you want the benefits to be laid out. Then we'll say, hey, what is this actual benefit? Is it a deduction? Is it a fringe? Mark it as such. Then with these union benefits, not every single benefit is going to be calculated at the same type, the same rate. With these then, we can control how that specific benefit needs to be calculated then. Is it based on hours worked? Is it based on hours paid? Or it could be subject to the 0.5 calculation for overtime, or that benefit doesn't need to be subject to the 0.5 calculation for overtime. Is it a percentage? Is it a fixed amount? We'll then determine how this needs to be calculated, the rate it's calculated at, can even control how these are taxed, can set up limits, as well as still have the corresponding effective date. So if there's any updates to these, we'll update the table, timestamp with the upcoming effective date, and all employees are then updated when that effective date hits inside of the system. Then also too with these tables, my prevailing wage contractors, same thing here, that prevailing wage fringe. This is a cash fringe that we're just paying into the employee's paycheck, or we have some sort of fringe benefit group where we have a bona fide plan. We're breaking that fringe information out into 401k, maybe some multiple buckets we want the information to hit. System can be as simple or as complex of a setup as you may need. For that prevailing wage information, same thing. All trades are being calculated the same, or I need to get down into a trade by trade basis, I can do so. Then mark it as a fringe. Again, how it needs to be calculated, rate it's calculated at. You can then take the prevailing wage fringe information, tie that to the corresponding job record, then all that information is automatically tracked. Then also too, if anyone in the audience does have that prevailing wage fringe reduction, that fringe credit, also have ways that we can set and automate how that fringe credit is automatically tracked and applied if we were already offering these employees any benefits when it came to those prevailing wage projects. Right, so we'll go ahead and close out here. Then with Payroll for Construction, payroll maintenance is completed. Next step, job cost maintenance. You come in, you set up a job record inside Payroll for Construction. It's as simple as giving us a job number and description. If you're going to be integrating that payroll system with your accounting system, we would want that job name and number to be set up how it appears inside of your accounting system. You can manually set up new jobs, or we can also import a list of job names and numbers into the system for setup. But once those jobs are entered, we're ready to then bring hours into the system. Come into Payroll Daily. We can enter, manually import, we can sync those time cards into the system from our mobile application. A number of ways you can get hours actually entered into your payroll system. Then once hours have been entered, you'll have a number of proofing reports and pre-check registers to review where the hours and calculations stand before our team ever touches payroll for payroll processing. First one I'll jump into here is our time card list proofing report. With this proofing report, I'm going to go ahead and run this list. Will then allow me to go ahead and see all of my employees' hours with the corresponding projects they had worked against in this week, with the full information going into that time card. Then with the corresponding time card information, allow me to also review, hey, with this specific project, was this a union job? Are we pulling in a union table or not here? Pulling in just private commercial rate. Then also, hey, is this prevailing wage union project telling me what table is being tied in, as well as then pulling in the corresponding rates per that employee's work classification, what they were doing on that job per that job's contract. But also with the review screen, those in the audience are saying, hey, that's great and all. We don't really review our hours broken out by employee though. We like to see it broken out on a job by job basis. That's not a problem. With our reports, they're going to greet you with the criteria tab that allows you to control how you want your report to be formatted. You don't need some sort of computer science degree to change a report format within Payroll for Construction. If I want to see it broken out by job, I can simply change my sort option to be by job and employee. Then with my subtotal section, hey, I don't care about employees. Again, I want to see job. With these reports and how they are set up, if you had a specific user that liked to see how a report was laid out, we can set up and save custom default report formats. So each time you access that report under that user profile, it's automatically formatted to how you want that to be laid out. If I had switched my criteria, rerun my list, I now have my same information being broken out on a job by job basis with my overall job hours subtotals. Then also too, with all of our reports in Payroll for Construction, PDF, Word, Excel, CSV, click a button, save it to your desktop. Very easy to pull out any reports that we may need to send off to a user that does not have access to our payroll system. Then going hand in hand with that proofing report, you'll have a list of pre-check registers or calculators for you to see where the payroll calculations stand before we touch for processing. What's going on with workers' comp? Is there an employee that isn't going to receive a pay stub if I were to submit at this point in time? For time's sake today, I'll just jump into the biggest one, the pre-check register. Run this report. What this will then do is show me all my employees who are set to receive a paycheck, how they are going to be paid, overall hours, earnings, fringe benefits, deductions, and overall net pay if I were to submit payroll at that point in time for payroll processing. Then once all of the information's been reviewed by your team, looks good to go, you come over and click submit. Sends that payroll to our team for payroll processing. Within the hour, we'll have that payroll processed, give you that full report breakdown, what was handled, total amount of checks, direct deposits, total tax liability that was handled in that week. Then all that payroll information seamlessly flows into the payroll report section in your payroll system. All these reports are included as the Payroll4Construction client. You use them, you use them. If you don't, you don't. First one I'll jump into, workers' compensation. If I run this report right now, just giving me a high-level class breakout. Hours worked, gross earnings. Then, based on those caps, what was actually exposed to that workers' compensation policy. Now with this report too, hey, that's great high-level information, but hey, maybe we're going through an audit. We're gonna need a little bit more detail with that report than this. Back in that criteria tab, I can change this to be ran on employee by trade, broken out, or employee by earn code. Switch my report format, rerun this report. I now have my same information, but being broken out with my corresponding employees under my classes. Arthur here, 2 hours of overtime, $63 was his gross earnings, but only 42 was exposed based on that cap setup. If I go ahead and scroll through, we'll also provide us our overall grand totals of where we stand with workers' compensation, and automatically being tracked by our payroll database as hours are being coded in. Go ahead and then jump out of this report. Also too, EEO minority compliance reports, print and electronic formats available as well inside the system. Going to be also the same too with then those certified payroll reports. Electronic and print formats available. If I need to upload to any electronic portals online with our certified reports, you don't need to determine what report format you need for that specific job record. Once the certified payroll button is turned on the job record, opens you up to any one of our report formats. California DIR, Astrowares, EMARS, LCP Tracker, State of Maryland, Texas have their own electronic portals. Select then whatever format you need. Click OK. Then for that certified report, I'll simply come up, put in the date range that I need this certified report to be ran for. We'll then also set up a folder on your system of where this actual file will be saved after it is generated inside of the payroll database by your team. As the system is creating the XLS file, upload to the LCP tracker for you, where once I then have this determined, I run this report. I can run this then for one job. I can run the certified for multiple jobs at a time. With the information here, it'll look like a jumbled mess of info. That's because, again, we're creating the file upload for you to then pass back into the actual online portal. If I were to go ahead and click close, file's not been created, create file now. Click yes, saves it to my folder, log into the LCP tracker, go ahead and upload that file. The first couple of times you do this as well, our team would be right alongside you to assist with completing the upload electronically online. We'll go ahead and jump out here. Then also, hey, those that need certified payroll print. I need print, go ahead and select certified payroll print. Same thing with the print then. Go ahead and put in the corresponding date range. Then with the actual report options, not everyone's certified report needs to be laid out the same way. So we'll also go through and set up the defaults, save the information that you need to be included with that report, where then after putting the date range, all your team will need to do is then select the corresponding format needed. Scroll through and show the options for those on the call today. Over 40 different state, city specific formats inside of the Payroll4Construction database for those prevailing wage or for those certified reports. Again, also as well, the report format changes. We're staying up to date with how these reports are in the industry. Something changes, we'll update it for you. Included as a Payroll4Construction client is that maintenance. We'll timestamp that change that has been made. Keep going through, show you New York's about 15 different certified formats they have. But then once you select the format you need, I'll just show that generic WH347 here today. You run that report. We'll go ahead and pull in that certified report for you. If there's a spot for it on the certified report, there's a spot for it to be tracked inside of our payroll system, along with the corresponding signature page. I can then go ahead, PDF print, pull it outside the system, sign it, send it off where it needs to go. The last thing I'll also touch on with these certified reports, I was running that for one project at that point, but if anyone needs no work performed certifieds or wants to run this for multiple projects at a time, can absolutely do so with those certified reports inside of your system. We'll jump out of the certs here. Then the next one I'll jump into is that union reporting. So again, with the union information, you're going to need to track everything for our union employees, ultimately make that payment over to the union. Same thing with that union report. You put in the date range that you need the report to be ran for. Once I go ahead and run, we'll then pull in my union information. I can have this then rake out my information on a trade by trade basis with my trade subtotals, as well as then give us our overall union subtotal of where we stand with that specific union. The first page here, going to have my carpenter foreman under my local 6. Show me all my employees that have hours, earnings, and their benefits under that corresponding trade classification in that union. If I then tab over, give me a subtotal of where I stand with my foreman. Then keep going through, have my apprentice rate, see Susan's hours and earnings, anyone else that had pay under that specific trade in that union, subtotals for my apprentice, then ultimately give me my subtotal of where I stand with that union, then tell me what my bottom line is, what I need to cut the check for, and report the information over to that union. With Payroll for Construction, we do not handle any payments to those unions. It would be your team's responsibility to run that union report and then make the payment over to the union. And also, again, one union, multiple unions does not matter. I can have unlimited number of unions set up and tracked inside the Payroll for Construction database. I'll close out of this union report, and the last one I'll jump into today are burden employee or job summary reports. This report here, one of our biggest reports, we do see a lot of our clients utilize here with those burden reports. Hey, I say I'm paying Rick $15 an hour, but once FICA, FUTA, SUTA, workers' comp, all of our burden comes into play, this employee is going to be more so $25, $30 an hour. Our burden employee summary report will then take all of our employees, their overall hours, earnings, then bring in the full burden calculations so we can get a true average hourly rate, so we can see truly what these employees are costing us when it comes to these payroll runs. Yeah, we'll close out of that last report here. And what I'll do next is I'll go ahead then and open it up for any questions for those in the audience today. I know some have been thrown in the chat as we've gone along here, but what we'll do next is we'll jump back over into that PowerPoint and I'll pull up my contact information as well. I'll also open it up to those in the audience that may have any questions. If you don't have anything today, if you think of something here later this week or next week when we're running payroll with my contact information, please do not hesitate to reach out. Email, call, does not matter. Be able to assist with any one-off questions, or if you want to set up time for a one-on-one discussion, demonstration of our payroll services, would be happy to do so. And looking at the chat here, one question we have, layoff checks. If I have an employee in the office, I need to cut off a layoff check for that union employee. Can I do so? Great question. Yep, absolutely. With any layoff checks or one-time checks, doesn't matter if that's in the beginning of that payroll run, in the middle, we'll set up an off-cycle payroll period where your team can go in, enter any one-time check information. Once that one-time check information has been entered, you can go ahead, have that employee paid at that point in time, hand them a check before they leave the office that day. Then the next time we process that full week's payroll run, our team will be able to see any one-time check information, be able to get everything up to date on our end as the payroll provider when it comes to tax information, pay information. Layoff checks are not a problem with Payroll for Construction. Right, we got one. How do you handle sick pay that is not applicable to the union but required by the state? Great question. With your system, we'll be able to set up any earn codes or pay types that you may need for those team members, or for anyone on the team. Then with that actual earn code and the pay type, we are able to then control behind the scenes how that information is taxed, how that information is calculated, and also how that information is then pulled into the corresponding reports. So we would set up then a corresponding earn code, and behind the scenes with that earn code's pay type, we'll then control how the information needs to be broken out with our reports. We can have that opted for not being pulled into our union information, but still have that all tracked as being required by the state there. Not a problem with the system. Great question. It also looks like we have one about HR. Do we have any HR offerings with Payroll for Construction? We do. As of this year, late last year, Payroll for Construction Foundation themselves, our main parent company, has rolled out HRHQ, our new employee self-service and onboarding system. With HRHQ, this is a separate module that isn't included with the payroll systems, but with HRHQ, you can go in, onboard your employees electronically, have them set up. Then with those employees after onboarding, have their own self-service portal where they can pull paycheck information, they can make PTO requests, they can update their deduction information, give them that full kind of management to their information in their hands, as well as too with any of the HR admins can manage any of our employees without ever having to log in to your payroll database. But we do also now have an HR offering with the Payroll for Construction product line. All right, with that, doesn't look like we have any other questions in the chat here today. So I want to thank everyone for taking the time this morning to join today's sales webinar highlighting Payroll for Construction and how we can. But we did get one more question there. How does payroll go back into QuickBooks? So another great question. With the QuickBooks system, we have a QuickBooks integration tool where with that integration tool, we would set that up on whatever workstations your team would need. After payroll is processed through Payroll for Construction, you will access the QuickBooks integration tool. You'll put in the pay period for that week's range. You go ahead, run the integration tool. If it passes the information back into your QuickBooks system, broken out on a job-by-job basis to keep our job costing information intact, we'll have it coded out to the corresponding GL accounts. That QuickBooks integration tool can work for QuickBooks Online and desktop versions. Does not matter what version of QuickBooks we're using. You can have that integration tool work with your accounting system. Okay, and then last one, how quickly do you need the information to get direct deposits done? So with the typical timeline processing for Payroll for Construction, we want payroll hours entered and submitted to our team 2 days prior to that check date. So we have a Friday pay date. We would want hours entered to our team on Wednesday. Within the hour on Wednesday, we'll have that payroll process, send the direct deposit file over to the bank, to then hit the employee's accounts come Friday morning. That is then the typical timeline processing. But if any of those in the audience today do need day prior processing, we do have the potential to get your team set up for day prior processing, where we can have payroll submitted that day prior before the check date and still be able to have our employees paid on time. So we do have a few different options for the timeline for the submittal, but typical timeline submittal would be 2 days prior to that check date. All right, the last one, is it difficult to amend any payroll corrections? No, with us, we'll have a corrections portion inside Payroll for Construction. You could pull up that corrections portion, enter then any of the updated information. You can access the previous employee's time card. Hey, last week we shorted Rick 2 hours. I need to go ahead, add those 2 hours back into his time card. You pull up the corrections portion, update his time card information. You go ahead and post. Then in that posting, it will then say, hey, this resulted in a net pay increase of $40. for my example. With that, you can then have that employee be paid at that point in time with the check you cut out, or you could also kick that information to the next check on the next payroll run to have that included. Then any corrections that have been made, just like those layoff checks that I described earlier, we'll be able to see any corrections when they come over with the full payroll run and be able to update all of the payroll tax information as the provider. Very simple process to make those updates and corrections, but if you had any questions, our payroll tax and support team is available to you Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, unlimited free support included as a client. All right, so with that, I want to thank everyone for taking the time this morning to meet with me to go over the sales webinar for the Payroll for Construction Services. Again, anyone has any questions or interest in setting up a demonstration, please do not hesitate to reach out. But I want to thank everyone again for the time today. We will be sending a recording as well of that the webinar for you to keep for your records. So check your email here shortly later today. But again, thank you everyone for your time this morning. I hope everyone has a great rest of their day today.